Hello and welcome to the Fandoms Edge podcast with your host Joe and the person who hosts Twitch chat, some intense therapy, Tom. Tom, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. These intros, they're just getting better and better, aren't they?
I mean, mate,
thank you, Jay, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, for putting this together. Honestly, it has us laughing every single time. Do we want to unpack that, or are we just going to leave that there? Just leave people guessing.
I think context would be nice, I think. So this was when Jedi Survivor was out. I was streaming it on Twitch, and, well, that's all you need to know about that, then.
The reason you're nicknamed the Pit Inspector.
Nothing to do with me falling to my death again and again and again in that game. No idea what we're talking about. Nope.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, let's talk about what this month is all about. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. This is Fandoms Edge. We discuss all different kinds of fandoms, all different nerdy things, everything that interests us, and we share that joy with you guys. So, gaming to Star Wars and beyond. Today, we're going to be going through some of the latest gaming releases. Tom will pick that up in just a moment's time. We're also going to be talking about the Red Dead Redemption remake, air quotes, and the Ahsoka series, as well as a smattering of other topics. I think we've got some interesting topics to cover today. But Tom, why don't you kick us off with some gaming releases for this month?
Yep, so, as always, some of these have already passed by the time you're listening to this. But early in the month, on the 10th, we've had a couple of releases. We've had that Atlas Fallen, that's a single-player action-adventure game. It's on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. There was the Xbox release of Stray. Obviously, that was a PlayStation exclusive and was also available on PC, which released last year. So that kind of 1 year rotation that PlayStation usually have before bringing it to Xbox. So Xbox players can have that. On the 15th was the new free-to-play Emergency game, which I actually streamed on Twitch on Wednesday. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it, because if you're used to the Emergency games, which are strategy, it's basically strategy games, organising all the emergency services, police, fire, rescue, tow trucks, all that kind of stuff. It's not an emergency game like the old ones, like Emergency 4 or 911 First Responders, because that game has two names depending on when it was, what area was. I think one had a release name for North America, and then the rest of the world had another name. Basically, it's not the same. They've simplified everything. There's this more mobile-ish microtransaction elements. I would talk about it in more in depth, but it's not the same emergency game as you want to. Obviously, you're all free to download it, have a go at it for yourself, but it's not what I'd expect an emergency game to be, unfortunately. 17th is a topic we're going to discuss in seconds. Red Dead Redemption remake, PlayStation 4 and Switch. That has recently released. Obviously, we're recording this partway through the more business end of August. The 18th is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. It's coming out on PC, PS, and Xbox. The 22nd is Immortals of Avon, which is a single-player first-person magic shooter, which is coming out on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, which is also an EA game. On the 24th is Ride 5, so instead of racing with cars, it's with bikes. That's bike racing, coming out on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. On the 25th is a game that a couple of my friends are interested in, Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. And on the 31st is War Hospital. It's a World War I strategy game, managing the medical side rather than the more shooting side, which I can imagine might pique your interest, potentially.
Sounds like something I should probably look into, definitely. I mean, I definitely like my war-based games. I find interest, especially in the historical aspect as well. So yeah, it might be something I look into a bit further, because it might be something I enjoy.
Yeah, so by the time you're listening to or watching, if you're on YouTube, the podcast, it will be out basically a day later, because the podcast will be out on the 30th of this month. That's all the game releases so far for August. And I'm sure you've got some... We're going to tail back on Red Dead, aren't we?
Yeah, I want to talk about Red Dead a little bit. Yeah, let's go right into that. So, some of you may be aware, some of you may not have heard, there is a, air quotes, remaster of the first Red Dead Redemption coming out. As you say, it's out now. It's the 17th it came.
Yeah.
And there's been a little bit of, not quite controversy, but a little bit of debate online, I think. It's probably the best way to put that anyway. And the reason for that is that it's being re-released. It's got I think people said a $50 price tag. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, but clearly enough.
Basically full price is what they're asking
basically
for.
a full price brand new game. But the argument that's being made is it's a 13-year-old port. It's not a remake. It's not a remaster. It's just being ported onto a new system.
Yeah.
Worth mentioning on that as well, it's arriving on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, which is still a last-gen console. PlayStation 4, that is. It's not coming to PC, and it's apparently already available via backwards compatibility on Xbox. I don't know if that's on disc as well, or if it's just through like what was Games with Gold.
Yeah.
What is it, Game Pass now, or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but what I will say in defense of Rockstar is all of the trailers and stuff that I've watched, because cycling back just a second, I've seen a lot of clips taken from the original release. Lately, I've had a lot of shorts coming up of, for example, people taking lines that are said in Red Dead 2 and then stitching it with the scene from Red Dead 1 that kind of calls back to it, even though it was the earlier game. And sort of showing those links and those kind of wrapping up those moments almost. And yeah, like I say, the trailers of this re-release or remaster or whatever you want to call it definitely looks a lot better than the original game. And I don't know if that's just modern technology kind of naturally upscaling it a little bit, because obviously we know that's a thing. When you play stuff on newer tech, it looks a little bit better, generally speaking. But yes, I don't know if it's just that, or if they have actually done something to improve it, maybe put in some higher quality models. But yeah, I mean, Tom, how do you feel about this? Obviously, the $50 price tag does feel a little bit cheeky.
Yeah, it feels like they've just done what Rockstar tend to do, and that's more of a cash grab. You know, yeah. I've read that, you know, there's no graphical improvements, there's no FPS enhancements, there's no multiplayer, but they're having that, was it that zombie sort of mode?
Yeah, the Undead Nightmare sort of story expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I didn't know there was no multiplayer, although looking through the article that we have saved as reference, yeah, I can see it saying no multiplayer, which...
Yeah. It's...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't call it a remake, we can't call it a remaster, it is a port. And, you know, and I don't understand the decision from Rockstar to even do this in the first place. Because how does that work on a Nintendo Switch? Yeah, sure, it might be, what, 13, 14 years old now. But even on the Switch, we know it isn't particularly performing well with modern games now, unfortunately. We know that from the past, there was a whole thing about the latest Pokemon game not really performing well on the Switch to its fullest potential.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've talked about that before, haven't we?
Yeah, and it just makes me think that what it just looks like a money grab, because obviously it's old gen. That's not to say that people from PlayStation 4 won't buy it, because they might, but there are people like me who've never played Red Dead Redemption at all, but have played Red Dead 2. And in all honesty, if you have played Red Dead 2 without playing Red Dead, you know, I asked my friends and said, you know, do I need to play it? And they said no, because it's the story, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, because I've technically played it in the correct order.
Yeah.
But obviously, being on PC, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch myself, I don't see myself buying it for Switch. For me, yeah, sure, I want to play it, but I probably would want to play it more on PC than anything else. So
Yeah,
there might be problems porting it over to more modern tech. I think that might be part of the problem, but they wanted to do it anyway. But
then the counter argument to that, though, is that they've got it backwards compatible on the latest Xbox.
Yeah, but we don't know to what extent. Yeah.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that somewhat debunks the issues of porting argument, because clearly they are able to do it. I agree with what you were saying before about it being sort of classic Rockstar money grabbing. I mean, take GTA 5 for example. It's been released on 3 generations of console now. I mean,
I think that's only because they want to keep up on they want to keep people playing their game and new people playing their game on the latest consoles, which we know, because we know Rockstar take their time on their games, which I think is fine. I think the more money grabbing and stuff is to do with the fact that they've all these shark cards and stuff. And things on GTA Online are so incredibly expensive where it's almost forcing you to do that now, which is a shame.
Yeah, but I mean, in some cases you can say it's the re-releases as well, though. Yeah. Or I think you can, because obviously they discontinue updates and support for the older versions of the game. So if you've got it on the 360 or the Xbox One, tough, you ain't getting anything now.
Yeah. And I'm just reading right now the backwards compatibility. It runs in 4K on the Xbox Series S, 1440p on Xbox Series S, as well. So it's more than capable of running quite smoothly by the look of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't understand really.
The
decision.
I mean, I would love to get Red Dead Redemption back. Even if it was just putting the original game on PC, I'd be happy with that. Maybe I'd want it at a discounted price because it is an older game now, as we said, 13 years old. But I'd be happy with that because, again, that's something I'd like to stream. Because it was a fantastic game. It had a brilliant story. Even The Undead Nightmare, which seemed to come out of nowhere, it was a very weird DLC story add-on, but it was still a lot of fun. You know, it was. I remember that coming out and everyone sort of going, "What? Where's that come from? Why are they doing that?" But it was, like I say, it was a lot of fun. It added more hours of joy to that game. So yeah, I'd love to play that. I'd love to stream that, but whether we get that anytime soon, who knows? Yeah, definitely a strange one. I don't know how to feel about it. I feel it has improved, as I said before, but not to justify releasing it as if it's a new game, sort of at that price. Yeah, that's it'll be interesting to see how that one develops, because I feel like that's not the end of that story, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like more will happen in regards to that. We'll have to just keep an eye on it and see what comes out from Rockstar as well as from the community. Yeah, watch this space. Yeah, guys, the next thing we want to talk about, we're sticking with Rockstar for this. Rockstar has acquired FiveM. Now, some of you probably might not be aware of what FiveM is or who they are or what they do. Some of you certainly will be because you would have been involved like me and Tom have been. FiveM was an application used for communities online in terms of GTA 5. There was a sister sort of mod created by the same team for Red Dead Redemption 2 as well, and it was largely adopted by sort of roleplay communities, centered around various different things. A lot of what we played, me and you, Tom, I think.
Yeah.
For you as well, wasn't it? Was around sort of emergency services roleplay. Something we were both involved in for a long time. I think we're both kind of stepped away from that now, haven't we? But But yeah, FiveM...
It didn't always used to be called FiveM either. I can't remember what it used to be called.
I mean, it was certainly FiveM all the time I was there. So I didn't know that. But
yeah, it did change its name partway through to FiveM. Can't remember. Can't remember what it was. But yeah.
But yeah. So obviously, you know, it's a multiplayer application, and you can obviously involve mods in it. So obviously, for our experience, it was a lot of modded vehicles and pedestrian sort of like clothes and models and things like that. Yeah. And I guess you could say sort of weapons as well.
All the different scripts as well.
Scripts
and
you know, custom buildings and stuff as well. Open or sort of enterable buildings as well. That was a thing. Yeah, it was great for roleplay communities because you got a lot of freedom and you could mod it and adapt it and enjoy that experience with other people who are obviously interested in that. It was not what you would expect of sort of the base GTA 5 multiplayer. And a very different experience.
As someone that's along the line set up and managed behind the scenes all the modding and the VPN and all that kind of stuff, it is a lot of work to set up. So I do kind of respect the people that have done them and done it for a number of years. It's a lot to set up and do for a community like we were used to.
Yeah. I just touching on that very quickly. I don't know how much involvement there is on the Red Dead 2 side.
Yes, is it called Red M, I think?
Yeah, I think it is Red M.
Yeah.
Again, very similar thing. It's been adopted by roleplay communities. I assume that's the target audience just because of the way it works.
I think so, but obviously it's a bit different to how we would do it because obviously it's in the.
But that's what I mean. I don't know about.
Dead. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, I don't know because obviously for us it was modding in a lot of like custom vehicles and stuff, like we said.
Yeah.
I mean, other than obviously setting up that framework of effectively a server you can manage, I don't know what you would adapt. But then I've never gone into it, so I don't know what people would add. But yeah, again, it's two applications that are made, as I say, I think mainly for the sort of the role-playing communities or things in that vein anyway. People that want to play around with mods and all that kind of stuff. Rockstar has acquired them. They've brought them on board and sort of brought that team into the fold. And I think one of the things that's been talked about is we wonder if this is going to be included in GTA 6. Is there going to be some way of setting up and managing communities and sort of doing what FiveM did, but natively within the game? I think that's quite interesting. I think FiveM worked a lot better because, as Tom, I'm sure you know, and anyone that has played GTA, if you go and play in a GTA multiplayer lobby now, you get griefers and hackers and modders and people have broken that multiplayer system.
It just gives more freedom to do these more roleplay and live servers and all this kind of stuff. Even doing like private servers between you and your friends, sometimes it's just nice just to kind of muck around and even muck around with mods.
Well, I remember that was something we used to do in one of our, I can't remember which community it was now, but after we did the patrols and stuff, we'd go and mess around on the server afterwards for an hour or two. Because you've got the freedom to do it. You've got all the vehicles, you've got a mod menu so you can spawn whatever you want in. You can just have a bit of fun with it. And again, I think that's nice because hopefully they don't ruin it. It takes away from what... Let's take away the modders and the hackers and the griefers for a second.
Yeah.
If you want to have fun with the fastest car in GTA Online, well, tough. You need about $3 million in the game or whatever it is to buy that car. So you can't just go and enjoy it and race around the streets of Los Santos because you don't have the money to get the car in the first place and you need to play in an open lobby to make the money. I think that might be something they've changed now, but still, you know, that's been the case for a long time. FiveM offers a very different experience, and I think I can see a lot of people making use of it. I can see machinimas coming back in that as well.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Machinima is something we haven't seen for a long time. It's kind of died a little bit, I think.
I mean, it's still out there. There are still some good people making some really nice cinematic stuff.
And again, I think this would support that as well. I think it would bring a lot of support to the people that want to go into that.
But I think also there is that worry of, again, going back to Rockstar doing the cash grab is, are they going to monetize FiveM in any way? Because,
that's...
I mean,
that's definitely my concern.
They might be able to make things like setting up servers easier, but at what cost? Because obviously, as I know, financially to build a roleplay community, you need a website, which costs you a VPN to access the server, do all that kind of stuff. That costs you money, and then there's the money for people making the vehicles and the EUP and all this other stuff, and I don't want, if they add another price to that, I mean, they might do that, but we might not need a VPN to do stuff. Who knows how they might work it out? Because as you said earlier, you said we might have a way of incorporating it in-house, but how much freedom are they going to make us have? Because although it wasn't Rockstar particularly, I don't know if you remember, but Take-Two tried to remove Open4. They did this cease and desist a few years ago, and the entire roleplay community people were all in panic because they're like, if we can't have Open4, we can't do modding for single player. And that would ruin the entire ecosystem of mods everywhere. Obviously, that wasn't Rockstar themselves, but that was Take-Two, who own Rockstar. It's the publishers. So, obviously, that...
Do you know, I'd totally forgotten about that, but now you've mentioned it. I think that was before I got involved, but I did hear about that being a thing, and it's...
Yeah, I think it was like 2017, 2018, I think, when that was happening. Obviously, they haven't done it since, but, you know, we know that...
I mean...
This was a surprise because I've always felt that they didn't really like modding or modders or anything at all to begin with. So this was a surprise move that they've acquired them. That also means they can control them because they might want to steal loopholes of modding and stuff for GTA 6. We don't know.
Alternatively, on the flip side, obviously we talked about them bringing in a version of multiplayer for... Or similar to what's obviously been set up for the roleplay communities and communities like that, or just mess around servers. However, alternatively, what if they use the knowledge that FiveM have got to try and secure their own online offering, their own multiplayer? Because as we said, you know, obviously there's a problem with modders and griefers and hackers and stuff, and going in and, I don't know, blowing up everyone on the server or spawning silly vehicles and all that kind of shit. But what if they take what FiveM have done, because they've obviously locked a lot of that out, and you have to have exactly the same mod lists and everything to join the server? What if they incorporate that into their own online offering, and they use that to improve their own service?
I mean,
that would be quite good to see.
And I think that there's one thing that I've just remembered that's really good is obviously everything's all server-based now. There's none of this dragging stuff into your folders, which I'm pretty sure you remember.
Yeah.
There's none of that anymore because everything's all incorporated on the VPN on the server. The only thing that... Did you not know that?
No, mate, I've been out for years.
Yeah. So everything's all streamlined now. So everything that's on the... You don't need required fires or sirens or whatever you want to change. One of the great things is you can... It's the graphics mods, like Natural Vision Evolved or all these other visual mods that anybody can do on their own game. You know, FiveM allows that. But if you try and do that for online right now, it will still say, oh, you've got modified files. But maybe... PC gamers can, in the future, say, well, I want to... If someone develops a graphic mod, actually, I want to change the way my game looks, but it's not doing anything, all it is changing how the game looks. Maybe they'll be able to allow that in online. Because we know what people have done, like Razed. He makes Natural Vision. Remastered, Evolved. Yeah, he's done so well. He's still updating it basically every single month, adding stuff. You know, obviously you've got to be a Patreon for him, but you know, it's the modders, particularly on the graphics side, have done really well. They've taken graphically, GTA 5 isn't a bad looking game, but they've made it look so much better and realistic to the point where you've got things like that, and reshade as well, incorporating reshade into it, and it just, you know, makes it better. So I think there can be some sort of hybrid, but there's also that risk of, are they going to monetize it in any way, or are they going to restrict it more? Are we still going to have that open freedom of being able to do and manage everything? Are we going to have official Rockstar servers with particular rules that were incorporated into FiveM, and then have unofficial servers where anybody can create their own server? We don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see again how that one develops. I can see a lot of the concerns because obviously Rockstar has not done much to dissuade those concerns in the past. Yeah, I hope that we don't end up losing this as a tool for future releases. You know, I hope they're still allowed to develop that and offer that, even if it's not done natively within the game. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because
there's one more positive to this. See, FiveM didn't develop until maybe a couple of years that GTA 5 were in. This way, we might have whatever it's called, might even be called 6M for GTA 6 almost immediately or 6 months after, rather than waiting, because obviously modders had to wait when a new game comes out to learn and develop how to mod the game, because it could be different. It could be a completely different system, so we could be getting that FiveM sort of multiplayer right off the bat when or if
that's true.
GTA 6 comes out. Yeah,
because they'll have a peek behind the curtain, effectively. They'll know what's coming. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that develops. I hope for the better. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that one and see what they do. I hope it's something good for all of us. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Tom, I feel like you have a couple of things to bring up as well.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about City Skylines 2 again.
Right, I'll go and make a coffee. I'll be back in half an hour.
No, it's only a couple of points. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up some new points. Obviously, they've been doing very well with their marketing. Have Colossal Order. They've been bringing out a more cinematic overview of a feature highlight, and that comes out on a Monday. And then on the Thursday, they do a dev insight. So they go a bit more into detail with an interview with a couple of the developers, and we get to see more what we get in our favorite city builder. So there was a couple of points that I wanted to kind of highlight. I wanted to mention because they're good changes. First of all, the district tool isn't just the district tool. It's anything that which for City Skylines players, we had a paintbrush tool to determine things like industry areas and district areas, but now that's been changed to a polygon tool. So it's a line tool, basically, and they've said it's going to be more accurate, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. Although it's not Bezier, which basically means it's very similar to a polygon, but it curves, does a Bezier line. It's more graphic design talk than anything, because obviously in Photoshop and in Illustrator you have what's called the pen tool. You click on a point, you click on another point, and on that second point, if you pull it with your mouse, it will create a curve basically between those 2 points. So it's a little bit like that, but without the curving. And I think that is creates so much more control, because the devs did mention, oh yeah, it makes people have it frustrated people how inaccurate it could be, and being able to sort districts effectively well was a frustrating aspect of City Skylines 1, so they've changed it for City Skylines 2. So I think it's a positive, good change, from my opinion anyway. The second thing was when they started to talk about electricity. So it can only travel so far, as we know from real life. It can cause bottlenecks, blackouts, if that demand's too high. To prevent this, spread out electricity connections via more cables, or build high voltage cable. Now this is something new, because as we know, something new is it's all inbuilt with the roads. But now we've got things like transformers, the big high voltage towers that you normally see to the actual power plant itself. Beforehand, it was placed something like a coal power plant, and then just connect some wires. And obviously, that building would have a proximity of electricity. If you'd zoned some residential in that facility, it would pick up that electricity, and it would almost spread like a, I don't want to say a disease, but that's the kind of the way that it was. So if one building picked up the electricity, that would have a radius of electricity, and then more buildings would pick it up, and pick it up, and pick it up, and pick it up. I think that's still the way that it works, but this time, you're connecting it more realistically. You've got transformer stations, which are connected to power lines, which are connected to your power plants, whether that's nuclear, whether that's coal, whether that's solar, whatever it is.
So
it's created more depth. Yeah.
So obviously, if you've got high voltage cables, you're going to have some kind of substation to effectively distribute out to your lower power.
There are the low voltage cables, and then there's the high voltage cables, because as I've said, the electricity only travels so far, so that's what the high voltage are for.
So that's where our question is. So obviously, you're going to have your high, let's say you build your high voltage cable as your main from A to B. Then you're going to have some kind of substation on the end to bring it or convert it down into whatever's needed. Yeah. But as you already said, the electricity now is kind of fed through the roads.
Yeah.
So are you going to have to then build your low voltage cables from, say, your substation to part of the road?
Well,
and then it will share it out from there?
The low voltage cables, they can be built into the road. The high voltage ones are all the big towers that you might see when you're driving around. So they have to be above ground. So it's just the case of just connecting those. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you still build your low voltage as normal, and then you layer it over the roads.
I'm no electricity expert of how everything works, but I'm assuming this is how it works more in real life than it has done. From just watching and how the devs have kind of explained this. I think when we actually play the game for ourselves, I think it will be a better understanding. But yeah, that's my understanding basically for that.
Okay. I'll have to come watch you to see how it works.
Yeah. So the next thing is about size of the maps. Now this is really exciting because it's 5 times bigger, and there are 160 square kilometers approximately. That's real life. Now, obviously, I made a couple of these notes for the video that I made on my YouTube channel for this specific, for the tiles and the maps, basically, that particular week's one. I thought to myself, there's one thing I needed to do. I wanted people to relate it to an actual thing that they can relate to in terms of size. And obviously, when someone does something big, they usually use football pitches as an example. But even football pitches was too small. So I thought I was going through every single city area. I started in the UK, and I was thinking, what region, what city is probably the closest that everyone would be able to recognise from around the world, not just people from the UK. But I was getting in more and more niche cities and things that I thought that maybe people outside the UK won't know where that is. Eventually, I got to a place, which was Brussels. Brussels is approximately the region of Brussels, not just the city of Brussels.
Yeah.
The region of Brussels is the approximate size of our city skylines, basically.
Okay.
So that's something that's relatively relatable to, I hope, gives you more of an understanding of how big these maps are in City Skylines. It's a total of 441 tiles on each map, and you start with 9 of them. Now, bear in mind, you got a total of 9 tiles in City Skylines 1. Obviously, that's base game. Obviously, with mods, we had something called 81 tiles, which, as you guessed, 81 tiles in total. Yeah, and what's great about these tiles is they're no longer locked to neighboring tiles. So in order to unlock one tile, you had to unlock the one next to it.
Okay.
So it almost had to be sequential, but it was surrounding that, you know.
Right.
This time you can unlock whatever tile you want. But if you want to unlock neighboring tiles, you can do so. And I think that this more encourages you to think City Skylines less of this is a city and more of you're building a region. You know, you could say, actually, this one tile could be one area of this city. Because I feel that people in City Skylines 1 will tend to group everything up and squidge everything together as much as they can in these tiles. But with City Skylines 2, I feel that, you could have one tile that has this really big open space that's just for some farmlands spotted here and there, but mainly it's some highways to connect to your other town. So it's almost like building more of a country or a continent or a county rather than a city, I feel, with this more. I get to choose some regions, so I get to choose, you know, okay, these 2 tiles, and then let's have a little bit of a gap, and then these 2 tiles. I feel that we can spread things out so much more because we've got so much more space to deal with. Yeah,
so I know I've asked you about this before, and I guess I'm saying this more as I'm curious to see how this works.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, I'm sure you know, I'm going to ask about connections, or external connections outside of your tile.
Yeah.
Because if you choose a tile in the middle of nowhere that's got no connections, it's just open grassland, for example.
Yeah.
Well, great. I can now build up, I don't know, let's say I want to build up a load of industry here, or I want to build up it as a housing area. That's fantastic. But then how do I connect that to anything else if I've got no connection? I've effectively wasted time on that, and I've wasted money because nothing's going to happen because there's no way for my Sims to get into there, to build the houses, to move in, to start spending money, to start working, or, you know, whatever. So, and again, if you've got, I mean, I know I've gone over this one before, but if you've got a train station there, but you've got no rail connection, can you tell it to go and connect onto a bit of rail elsewhere? So that you've still got a connection? Can you do the same with the road? Can you tell it to connect to a highway somewhere? So I'm interested to see how that works.
Yeah, there are kind of 2 elements to this, because really your city is isolated apart from the existing road that exists. That's how you get people in. So that's AI coming in from places you can't access as a player. And obviously when you build roads, you will zone residential, you'll zone commercial and industry, because all those 3 connect. The industry create the goods from raw materials. They will then transport those to the commercial areas, which will create the goods that gets distributed to the people that live in those residential areas. So you would have your own internal kind of transport system. So you could have a train system if you absolutely wanted to, and that would only distribute your own citizens within. Now, there's something called outside connections. Now, these outside connections you have more control of in City Skylines 2. In City Skylines 1, you had... In fact, I'm not 100% sure how they work in City Skylines 2 too much. It was one of the things that kind of... I didn't fully understand, but it was one of the things that I think I'll understand when I play the game more of.
Right.
But how outside connections work currently is there might be a railway line just nipping into your tile just a little bit, and that's an outside connection, just like the base road that you start with a completely empty tile when you're just starting a city. It's just like that. So an AI train will come in and you can connect it to your own line, So other citizens from external AI theoretical cities can come into your city and people can go out. And the same with goods. Goods can come in and you can export it through that outside connection. I hope that does that clear up what you were asking?
No, because
Okay.
see, this is where I take issue with that. That's great, and that's kind of, I mean, I would argue that's already how it works in City Skylines and Sim City and sort of all these city building games. I understand that, but you've got 441 tiles.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you're going to have an outside connection in all 441 tiles.
No, that's
That's where I think it falls apart, and that's what I mean. Because you, as you said, you don't have to pick a tile next to one you already own. Because if you already own the one next to it, then you just create your connection like that, and it would link up to your existing one. But if you decide to go, I don't know, 5 tiles diagonally,
yeah,
and like I say, you've got no external connection on this tile that you choose, I realise it would be a stupid decision to choose that.
It probably would be I'm trying to see what you're trying to say. So if you had...
You see what I mean? You choose it, it's got no external connection, it's not connected to any of your tiles. How do you connect that up to anything else? How do you get people to come into that? That's what I want to know.
Unless you had all the tiles up to the existing tiles that you were already unlocked, you wouldn't be able to get anybody from that area to that area. Unless, as I've said, there's already an existing AI road or railway that's already there to connect to. If there isn't, yeah, you're going to have that problem. Because obviously, the way that the building works is, sure, you can zone stuff, the buildings will build, but they won't do anything. If it was entirely residential, what usually happens at the start of the game is they will build, and then you'll start seeing eventually cars coming in. They'll start moving in from that road that you connected to from the start of the game. Yeah. So you would have to somehow connect it eventually. So you might have to be. But
I wonder if they will put in some kind of like button that connects it to.
Yeah, there is a
external. It creates sort of a connection for you.
I know there's more outside connection control with a kind of dual arrow now at your tile border. So I think you might be able to, if you had something at the edge, you might be able to generate your own outside connections, I think, this time. So it would mitigate the problem that you're basically describing.
Because that's what I mean. I think, because obviously it will plot some route in, whether it's a road or rail or whatever that connection ends up being. I think it would just be interesting to see how it changes the world around it. Yeah. You know, you've chosen this tile in the middle of nowhere. How does it affect the tiles around it to create that connection? Yeah. That's, like I say, I realise it would be a stupid idea, but I'm curious. My mind is going, but how will that work? So I want to see that.
I'm sure it's something I can kind of test when I end up streaming it on come October time. So
yeah, I mean, like I say, I'd love to see it.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention about Cities Skylines 2 was the day-night cycle. So can't remember how long days are or anything, but days and nights are a bit more dominant and more of a thing. There is a day-night cycle in Cities Skylines 1, but I don't think it's as important as it is with this one. So the day-night cycles, when a day-night cycle ends, when it does a complete day-night cycle, that's 1 month has proceeded. So 24 hours is 1 month, and obviously, if I remember correctly, 3 months is a season. So
I was going to ask about that.
So that would be every 3 days the season changes from spring, summer, winter, autumn.
So that's giving me another thought. Obviously, if you've got seasons, you're going to get winter at some point.
Yes. So
we've already talked about
will happen now for definite.
That's what I mean. We've talked about how the AI reacts to things and how certainly the driving is much more realistic. Yeah. Is that going to cause more crashes because people don't know how to drive in the snow? Are we going to see? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about driving in the snow, but what this change actually does is how they've done the day-night cycle is at one point in the day and one point of the night, there's actually going to be a rush hour. because people are going to be going to work and coming home. Yeah. And this is new, because obviously at the moment we do have the day-night cycle, and it rains, it doesn't snow. That's new, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was it. Traffic was just as much demand as the roads were taking all the time. But this time we're going to have those rush hours of people going to work and coming back at 2 points of the day. So there's that kind of change, which has it more, how do I put this, in depth, I suppose, to how the day's progressing. I think. Yeah.
Well, it gives more of a purpose to that day-night cycle.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, I'm interested because obviously we know that the AI reacts in a much more human way now.
Yeah.
As you said, they obviously do 3-point turns to get out of traffic, and crashes will happen and things like that. I wonder if the weather is going to have an effect on that as well.
I think it will. They kind of mentioned it. They mentioned it with some of the natural disasters as well. So
cool.
I assume that it would do. But I'm just trying to think if they have mentioned if snow will affect. I assume it would do, because I remember them. What I do remember them saying about natural disasters and city services is obviously I think I've mentioned city services before, where I've said that the road maintenance vehicles in winter will switch to snow plows. And if you haven't got enough city services to do your maintenance to get rid of the snow, there will be more accidents.
Yeah.
So the snow plows will do what they should do in real life, and that's, plow all the snow out of the way. So if you're lacking that service, or you've not put too much budget into it, it will, fall.
You will see an effect across the city.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. That interests me.
Yeah. So obviously that's just a couple of points that I wanted to kind of bring up, which were quite interesting to kind of talk about for City Skylines 2. The next thing I wanted to talk about was more of a brief kind of mention of Payday 3, because
here we go again.
In the last couple of weeks we've had the beta, and this was an April build, which I'm not sure if everybody was actually aware of. So it was quite a few months old, and obviously it was through Steam. You'd request it. Unfortunately, I didn't get access. I'm not very happy about that.
A little bit bitter.
Yes, because a couple of my friends got it. So I've been hyped about this game since Starbreeze announced that they were working on Payday 3 maybe a couple of years ago, and now it's really happening. But it was interesting to see other people kind of play it and kind of see what they were doing, and it was just one heist, but it looked good. It looks like Payday 2, but it was definitely better, refined, and just obviously they've ripped out systems and removed systems that we know and like in Payday 2, which is a shame, because obviously Payday 2 has its own personality, and they've just expanded that personality with Payday 3, but I still think it's looking really good. And the couple of points I wanted to mention was from a couple of the dev diaries was, first of all, they're starting with 8 unique heists at launch, which I think is good enough variety to start with. Bear in mind, Payday 2, in fact, has recently, in the last week or so of recording of this podcast, has received its 10th year anniversary. They've done a special little update for it, for the 10th year anniversary. It's been out for 10 years now as that game.
That's shocking. I didn't realise it'd been that long.
Yeah, it's been 10 years since Payday 2 started, and
wow.
If you think about it, they're restarting that infrastructure. We're starting with 8 heists. We've got 84 heists, I think, at the moment after 10 years. So
yeah.
It's kind of, the devs have mentioned, we're kind of starting that journey all over again. So don't expect everything we have in Payday 2 to be in Payday 3. So I think, 8 heists at launch. Bear in mind, we know they're going to bring in some more heists as time goes on with the season pass and all that, because I've mentioned that before. I think it was in last month's, about what you get and everything. And I think that's reasonable. 8 different heists, I think is a good number.
I feel like that gives you plenty of content to get you going for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, obviously that's 8 heists in itself, but then as we've talked about before, as you've sort of mentioned before, there are different ways to approach each heist.
Yeah, and they've refined how to do this, which comes on to my next point, which they don't want stealth to break like a failure, because that's what it was like in Payday 2. If you were trying to stealth it and you made a mistake, and it was that drastic, and you're doing it on a really high difficulty, which meant the enemies are going to do way more damage to you, and you don't have a loud build with all the skills that you've done, you'd get punished really harshly. So they've got, you know, it means now in Payday 3, we've got this, you can have more of a hybrid build where even if you fail, you're still going to succeed, because as some other YouTubers and Payday 2 content creators say, it's in Payday 2, heists are won in the menus, not in game, because it's won with meta weapons or skills or anything like that. In Payday 3, they've said that it doesn't matter if you've got no skills or whatever, you should be able to be fine playing the game, and you should be able to go with another playstyle or another plan B if stealth does break, if you do make a mistake.
Yeah.
And obviously this is also reflected in the skills and gadgets and how civilians work as well. So it was one of the things, as someone that likes stealth myself, I hate the fact that if I make a really big mistake or even a little mistake, it depends on
You're basically done.
It depends on the circumstances, it depends on the mistake. Some you can deal with, but I think that 90% of the time you're hitting that restart button, you really don't want to. You want to continue, but now we've got more of a soft failure rather than a hard failure, because I've discussed this before. There are different areas now. There are private areas, there are secure areas, and guards will escort you out, and you can just try again if you're in a private area. They'll give you a warning, they'll escort you out, and then instead of sounding the alarm, which I think is, you know, important, particularly for those stealth players and those players that want to start stealth and then go to loud. You know, it gives you more freedom, I feel. But yeah, Payday 3 is looking decent. And definitely some of my friends are very excited to play it. Well, I say that. A couple of them have already played it. I haven't.
But again, not bitter at all.
No, of course not.
No.
No.
Yeah, no, it certainly sounds like you're going to have plenty to keep you going for a little while. And as you said, they're going to keep putting out new heists and new content. So it'll keep expanding and developing. But yeah, I mean, I've never really got into Payday. I thought it looked quite interesting, but I've never really got into the series. I know you're heavily into it, so it sounds like it's going to be a blast for you, man.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Cool. Well, look, I've got another one to talk about. I'm going to touch very lightly on this one because I feel like we could go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the Twitter rebrand. Rebrand? Words. Twitter, as you're probably all aware by now, has rebranded to X. Why? Because Elon Musk felt like it.
Elon Musk loves an X. Tesla X. SpaceX. Yeah. He likes the letter X. And,
yeah, so, I mean, I think, and I've talked about this with a couple of people sort of outside of this as well, I think it's a really dumb move. Twitter is a massive brand. Everyone knows it is instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what a tweet is. Everyone knows what a retweet is, and all these kinds of these phrases that have been created in, I hesitate to say it, the era of Twitter.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you've been on Twitter recently, you'll know now that he's renamed retweets to just posts. You make a post or a repost on Twitter now. No,
he wants to call it an X.
Oh, really?
It's not a tweet anymore, it's an X.
He's obviously changed that temporarily, the repost and all that, at the moment.
Yeah,
but
probably because he wants to remove tweet from everything.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just from a marketing standpoint, it seems like such a stupid idea. The other thing that I've seen recently as well is he wants to remove the block feature.
Yeah. So Jay mentioned this to me on my stream the other day. Yeah. I don't understand. He says it's basically useless.
Oh, no, well, I have a theory on this. Might be a bit tinfoil hat, but I have a theory.
Oh yeah.
You can still block people on messages, so you can stop them from DMing you.
Yeah.
But you can't block them in terms of stopping seeing their tweets. Now,
that's just encouraging toxicity, in my opinion.
Yep, and I think it's quite dangerous because there are people out there who will harass people and things like that. I think it's certainly a dangerous move. I think being able to block people is good for people's own safety online. But I think he's done it because everyone went and blocked him after he took over and started being a massive knob.
Oh.
I realise people will not agree with my opinion there, and I realise that's a very strong opinion to take, but I think he's acting like a man-child. And I think that because people went and blocked him, he initially made it so that people had to see his tweets. And I think he's now just doing it so that people have to see things regardless of their opinions. And I think that's the reason he's removing the block feature. There's nothing confirming that, and I could be entirely wrong. I realise I'm totally tinfoil hatting here to everyone that's listening, and I apologise for that. But I think that's probably what's driven it, because I think that's the way he works. When he doesn't get something he wants, it seems like he throws his toys out the pram until he gets what he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, that's what it seems like. I could be totally wrong, and if I'm wrong, then I take it back. But
I mean,
that's the way it looks.
Looking at it from a rebrand point of view, right? This is something that I noticed someone tweet about, but also one of my friends mentioned it. The letter X is can be conceived as a how do I put this? I'll give you an example. Oh, I'm gonna go and watch an X video.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going with.
What kind of connotation does that bring? Yeah,
it's X is very much related to an adult world.
Yes.
Is that the wording you're looking for?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean.
So it's like, why? Also, what I found funny, I don't know if it was it was one of the animal associations. I think it might have been RSPCA, and they did a little campaign saying there's an endangered birds and all that, and they used Twitter as an example because, by the way, if you didn't know, the Twitter bird's called Larry. They killed Larry. He's killed Larry. Larry the Twitter bird. That. Yeah.
Oh.
He's killed Larry. Larry has been killed off by Elon Musk. It's the thing is, Twitter's so iconic, particularly the bird. Like, you know it. It was funny when they eventually changed, because they changed the desktop first. They didn't change the app on your phone for quite a while, and as soon as it changed, it's muscle memory, which you don't realize until it's changed. Yep. Twitter was in a particular position on my phone, and one day I was looking at it, I was thinking, where's Twitter gone? Where is it? I can't find it, because obviously an icon from a graphic design point of view, for those people that don't know, I am a graphic designer, so I kind of have some expertise in this, where when it comes to something that you want to look at, particularly like an icon and a logo, it needs to be recognizable within 3 seconds. That's the rule. Yeah. And that's because it creates muscle memory. And he's ruined everyone's muscle memory because we are expecting it was a blue bird, wasn't it? On a white background, if I remember correctly.
No, white bird on blue background.
Was it white bird? Blue background? Besides the point, it was, that's what our eyes were looking for. Recognizable. We knew exactly what we wanted. We didn't have to read the app text of saying Twitter. It's there.
You know from the image.
But when you're when you're looking at something, you're like, that's exactly the position. And it took me 30 seconds to 60 seconds to actually realize, oh no, he's changed it to X. That's the icon there. Yeah. And that breaks that 3 second graphic design rule of, if it's something like a billboard or a logo or something, it needs to be instantly recognizable within that couple of seconds. Yep. And he's broken that for everybody.
I find it funny you mentioned that, actually, because a few people I know sort of turned around at the time and went, "What's X?" So, from a marketing standpoint, again, terrible marketing because no one knew it was changing. Oh well, not no one knew, but I would say probably a fair way is the average person who's not that involved.
I remember it was teased the day before, and then he did it. So
yeah,
it was kind of planned. Yeah.
Talking about that muscle memory though, you're absolutely right. I did the exact same thing. The day that it changed, I picked up my phone, I was scrolling through, and I was like, "Oh, where's Twitter?" I know which page it should be on because I know all the apps around it. But even though it was there, I knew it was changing to X because I'd seen it and I'd been expecting it to change. I still couldn't find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You know where it is, you know where it should be, and then it's not there, and it creates basically a void.
The thing is, when I'm accessing the desktop one now, I still type in Twitter. I don't type in X, but it still redirects.
That's the point. Is the web address still Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, twitter.com/home.
Yeah.
I
think he kind of knows that people just are going to continue calling it Twitter anyway. But this hasn't worked. This hasn't worked for other brands though, particularly gaming brands that we know.
Yes.
So, Origin is EA's desktop app for their games and their store to access things like The Sims or RIP SimCity or FIFA or Titanfall. You get the gist. Their games, they changed it quite recently. It was in beta until quite recently. It's now called the EA app. The thing is, we all call it Origin, and I kind of prefer Origin a little bit more sometimes. In fact, if you have Origin, it forces you to go on EA app now. It didn't used to do that. It now forces you completely.
Here's the argument in EA's favour, though. That's not a bad change. Though we prefer Origin and we're used to that, and that's probably because nostalgia, them change it to the EA app is still recognisable because we still know the brand of EA.
Yeah.
It's not changed that core brand, I guess you could say.
See,
we still recognise that.
Blizzard have done the same. They used to be Battle.net, but it's now Blizzard app. Now, yes. You have the same point of it's to the point, it's the company name with the word app at the end, which they should have done originally, but they've made a unique word out of their name that we all recognise and is instantly recognisable. So it's been good marketing to call it Origin, to call it Battle.net, because that's what we're used to it calling it. We associate it with Blizzard, we associate it with the Origin EA games.
Yeah.
But them changing it partway through doesn't make any sense. They should have had EA app from the start, or Blizzard app from the start, because for those people that have transitioned from Origin to EA or Battle.net to Blizzard will probably still call it Origin or refer it to Origin or type in your Windows bar when you're searching for it, but it won't come up because it's not called that anymore. I'm absolutely 100% guilty of that now.
See, I mean, like I say, I don't feel that strongly about EA and Blizzard, but then that might just be because I've never used them as much.
Yeah, I have a lot of EA games over the years, I've used it quite a bit. So it's as someone that's used it on a regular basis, you know, particularly with Battlefield and particularly those games, you know, which I've played quite often over the last few years. It's muscle memory, and it's something I associate because I think it's good them coming up with a name to associate with something that we wouldn't expect, you know. I mean, what does the word Twitter mean? What does the word Origin mean at its core? But we've associated with something now.
I do wonder, actually, sorry, it's only just come to mind. I do wonder if it's a copyright issue.
It might be.
You know, obviously they have to continually pay to copyright and trademark that. Whereas
it might be cheaper now.
EA or Blizzard are already trademarked and copyrighted. Maybe it's just easier for them to do that and not have to keep paying for Origin or Battle.net.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a purely financial decision. But again, that still makes more sense than Twitter rebranding to X because I felt like it.
Yep.
I mean, another example that I noted down as well was Meta.
I mean, I suppose
obviously,
we've both discussed this in private before, but it was. I think we agreed it wasn't a negative change unlike EA app and Blizzard's. It was a positive change because obviously they bought WhatsApp and Instagram and they wanted it under one roof instead of it saying,
absolutely.
oh yeah, it's by Facebook. And then Facebook would be Facebook by Facebook, so it's Meta. Facebook by Meta. WhatsApp by Meta.
Obviously, you had Facebook as in the social media platform, but you also had Facebook, the company. Yeah. But then Facebook has bought, as you said, WhatsApp, Instagram. I'm sure they've bought something else, haven't they? They own Oculus now.
Yeah, Oculus.
And, you know, obviously they've expanded Instagram to now have Threads as well, which is obviously the rival to Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it.
I haven't actually downloaded that at all. But...
No, I haven't. But obviously, it's expanding the portfolio of apps that they offer. Yeah. Again, it makes sense for them to change from the Facebook company to Meta.
Yeah.
Bit of a weird name, but whatever, their choice.
Hey, it's Meta.
But to represent all of those companies underneath them, that makes sense, and I can see why they made that change. Yeah. Again, though, even with the EA app and the Blizzard app, I can see why they've made these changes. I just can't understand it for Twitter.
Yeah.
But there you go. Ours is not to reason why.
The last point I wanted to mention was he could have, with the amount of money that he spent buying Twitter, he could have hired his own developers, design team, and made his own social media called X himself.
Yeah.
Rather than buying Twitter and changing it. Not to mention laying off half the staff that worked for Twitter because he didn't need them anymore.
It's very self-destructive. But I think... I don't know how true this is, so this maybe take this with a pinch of salt. I'm sure I read somewhere that he didn't actually intend to buy it. It was meant as a joke. And then whoever it was a US government body, basically turned around and went, no, you've made the offer, you now have to follow through on it. So I wonder if it's just, well, I'm just going to do what I can to ruin it now because what's the point?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a little bit of that in there as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to hand back over to you because I know you've got more points to talk about.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm ranting now.
I'm going to talk about Forza Motorsport. Obviously, the developer stuff that they share is with their monthly Forza Monthly live stream that they do. So for the first maybe half an hour of that live stream, they talk about the new Forza Motorsport and they talk about new things. This one's quite exciting. It's how multiplayer works, which I've taken 5 or 6 points from, which I think would be useful for people to kind of learn about, and I think it is in the right direction. So the main multiplayer is called Featured Multiplayer, and it's got a race weekend structure. And even if you're vaguely aware of how motorsport works, this seems like a positive change. So basically what that means is there's going to be qualifying, practice, and then the actual official race, basically. How it works in the real life, how it should work in every single racing sim or simcade, as Forza Motorsport is more of a simcade than full sim. It has a series. So each series has a live real-world time updated list of current unscheduled upcoming events. So there's always something to do for multiplayer. And these two series are called Spec Series and Open Series. So Spec Series are tuned and balanced machines. They're typically race cars. So they're all to the same spec. There's no upgrades needed. They're all to the exact same spec, as it says in the name, Spec Series, and you'll be driving against other people with these exact same machines. So it's balanced. And majoritively, we're going to be seeing some GT and Touring Series, which pleases me greatly because I love my GT and Touring cars. And there's also going to be a rotating Spec Series to celebrate other racing divisions and makes. So you know, you might see some others like, I don't know, an open wheel series, or one that's specific to maybe just Porsche or just McLaren or something. Open series is where you can bring any car for that class restriction, and it will rotate through these car classes on a weekly basis. So as long as you have that car that meets that spec, you can race it. So that's where you'll get the variety. Obviously, it won't be as balanced because some people there might be meta cars, more meta cars than others. But I think it's still good to have that variety in there. And they've introduced this new feature called Skip Lap. So this is available in open practice and qualifying. So it's a rolling start on a fresh lap if necessary. It'll cost you that current lap to use, so you've kind of got to use it sparingly. So if you make a mistake, you can basically have a rolling start instead of having to go all the way around the track again. Because obviously when you qualify, you'll have a limited amount of time to qualify. You might be 10 minutes, for example, to qualify, or a number of set laps, I think, that there is for qualifying. So it just makes it easier if you've made a big mistake and you want to have a valid qualifying lap. So
if you're halfway around and you've been it, you can cut out the time of doing the rest of the lap.
Because obviously, if you've gone on an off track, or you've crashed, or you've made a mistake, it can cost you time, or it might have made that lap invalid, so it couldn't be used for.
Right.
Because obviously, fastest time in qualifying means the higher you are on the grid.
Yeah.
And talking of tracks and track cutting, they've removed tyre walls to prevent track cutting. That was what they had with track cutting. They just put up tyre walls. All these other sims now have it's the AI or the computer that decides where the line is, where it decides that's cut, that isn't, because they're using this term called machine learning, which is basically their fancy word of saying AI. That now does that. They've redone the track limits, allows for more track to be used than before, which is great. And it means there's no more tyre walls to frustrate people. So there's none of that, which I think is a positive change. They've come into more of the modern stuff of how Project Cars 2 works and all that kind of stuff, because that works on that sort of system, which we've known for a while. So it's good that they're getting a bit more up to date. Now, obviously, a lot of people were worried of how to delegate safety ratings, driver ratings, which are both going to be a thing in multiplayer. So the driver ratings are going to be skill-based. It's the new version of the true skill that is powered by their AI. And the safety rating is influenced by on-track behaviour, affected directly by the FRR penalties, or the Forza regulations rules penalties, basically. That's what that kind of stands for. So it will put you in that kind of similar safety and driver rating. So if you're a really bad, if you're punting people and just being a bad behavioural driver, which we know is
it's a demolition derby. A
lot of players, particularly in Forza, like to play it. You'll be put into people that similarly do that. Now, how do you start that? How do they decide a base? Does everyone stay at the same one? No, there's what's called a qualifier series. So everyone that wants to enter a multiplayer has to enter that qualifier series for the first time. Gets you new to the more multiplayer format and gives you a base for the driver and safety ratings. And you've got to do that before going to open or spec. And I think that's clever, because it means if you're pretty good, you're good, and you'll be in that kind of bracket. If you've been making mistakes, you've been bumping other people, you'll maybe have a low one and be put with, and almost be instantly put with. Obviously, in the qualifier series, you'll be put with everybody, but after that, you might not be. I think that's a good positive change, because it's really the only way to kind of do it. And
qualifier is basically a more open series.
What's a great thing that I've noticed as well is they've said that there are some severe penalties that would actually disqualify you completely from the multiplayer session, which I don't think hasn't really happened in Simcades at all. Now, I have never played Gran Turismo, but it's becoming a little bit more Gran Turismo-y in that sense, which is good.
Okay.
And I don't think they have a disqualification as far as I know. So I think it's good that there is a disqualification for those people that keep punting people and keep punting and just, you know, just get that road rage and then just decide to, actually, I'm now playing Wreckfest, not Forza. So I think that's positive.
That's what you play Forza for, isn't it? That's what I thought it was. Maybe I was wrong.
Last point was pits are more authentic. It's still a cutscene, but you can choose a new tyre compound, you can repair and fuel up accordingly. So it's the step in the right direction, but it's not what we wanted. We want to be able to actually. It needs to be gameplay. It's what they're missing. The pits need to be gameplay, like in Project Cars 2, you're driving in yourself. Even if they had it where the AI takes over as soon as you're over the pit line, I wouldn't mind that, but it's now still a cutscene, which I don't get. They want to be sim, but they're not being sim at the same time. It's a subtle detail, but it's, you know, we should be able to do that. Yeah, it's just a bit. Moving on, I did quickly, very, very quickly, add this little piece in, which you may not have noticed. Another gaming-related thing to do with the Crew Motorfest and Starfield, because I wanted to quickly mention that they've both gone gold. For those people that have no idea what that means, that basically means they've finished the game. It's ready to launch. So Crew Motorfest coming out later in September, and Starfield at the start, they finished. It's good to go. It's ready to go. So it's gone gold. So that's
exciting.
That's good. That's good. I'm sure they'll still be working on it, but they've basically said it's gone gold, which means, hey, it's ready for us to play. Talking of Starfield. It's less than a month away. In fact, it's 3 weeks away at the time of the recording. But by the time you listen to this, it will be exactly 1 week away.
I'm so excited for this game.
This is the last podcast you hear before Starfield. So, in September's issue, we'll be talking about the experience. Potentially, if you grab it as well.
How amazing it is.
Yeah.
I'm totally sold. It's going to be fantastic.
So, during this month, there was a Q&A over on their Discord. Now, I wasn't present during this because I was streaming Emergency at the time. The downside of doing the Q&A within the Discord, I don't think it was recorded or anything, so I had to get an external source who would, I think they're called Starfield Wiki, who had obviously gone in, had a listen, and I've picked the more gameplay focused things. There were some other things like the religion and beliefs and some of the lore and the inspiration for Starfield, which obviously you can find. By the way, part of their inspiration list, you'll be happy to know, was Star Wars. So there's some inspiration in there, which is quite exciting. So let me take you through some of the collective answers that I got from some of the questions and the devs answering. Okay. So there was a question about housing, first of all, and they basically said there's housing in different cities that the players can get. Some you have to purchase that are rewards for specific quests. These can be purchased in all major cities in the game, and you can get one for completing something, which I kind of left that as a quote because it's like they're teasing something, but we don't know what they're teasing. So you get...
You know, that kind of tracks, though, with other Bethesda games.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, we can get a house. How cool is that? Oh, Space House.
Space House, yeah.
The next thing that they mentioned, or the question that was answered for the devs, was about, will your parents look like you through the character customization system? And they said, yes, with the character customization system, they will make the parents look like you, but based on your face, then take it as long as you have the what's called the kid stuff trait. So if you have that, they will basically kind of reverse look like you. I think they said it was similar to Fallout 4, I think. Fallout 3 as well, potentially. Yeah, they mentioned one of the Fallout games that was kind of similar to that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's quite good for those people that are interested in that. The next question, I think, was more of, is everything going to be, at the start, is it going to be the same from where you come from, what happens to you? And they said everyone will start at the same spot, but what happened to you before is determined by the trait and background system, which I think is the whole point of them having this in. So the start of the game isn't quite exactly the same, but it is because you start off at the exact same spot. But depending on that, your traits and your background will determine how you got to that spot, I suppose. Yes, variety from player to player.
It'll affect the story that leads you up to that point.
Yeah.
But we all start playing in the same spot. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Someone asked about how smuggling works. So they've said that certain items are classed as contraband, which is pretty much illegal everywhere. And you'll need to smuggle them in past security ships that are in orbit of major settlements. But you can hide them using a special ship module that you can purchase. Now, this is kind of the first thing that they've kind of revealed about ship modules. They haven't gone in specifics of what modules we can get, really.
Okay.
I think this is kind of the first one. Obviously, we know about ship modules. We can get a variety and customize it. But this is, quite interesting that we can get a little module that we can hide our little illegal contraband if you want to be a dirty little crime boy or girl or whatever you identify as.
Basically, the smuggling space on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah? How did you know I was going to build the Millennium Falcon?
Because we are one and the same, Tom. We've been over this. We both love Star Wars. We basically look very similar. We're the same height. No one's seen us in the same room at the same time. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And the last point of that is the economy is fixed.
Okay.
But the prices of bought and sold goods can change based on the skills that you choose as well.
Do you know what? I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in a good story, which is what I feel like Bethesda are known for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fine with that economy being fixed. That's probably going to make things a little bit easier in terms of tracking where to go for X, Y, and Z.
One of the other questions that was asked was how does jail work, basically? So you can elect to go to jail or pay a fine when you're arrested, or even resist arrest and try to escape. The settle systems is more like Skyrim than Fallout 4's Commonwealth, and that last sentence doesn't mean anything to me at all as a Skyrim player. Does that ring some bells?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to work out what they mean by settled systems. Do they mean as in like a star system?
I think they mean the more jail system if you break a law. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's basically more like Skyrim's law system.
Okay. I mean, I didn't break the law in Skyrim. I was very good. I followed the laws of the towns that I went to.
Maybe I'll have to consult my dirty crime boy friend called Tom.
Oh, another Tom. Right, okay.
Yeah, not me. Other Tom.
They're multiplying.
Yeah. Someone also asked if the things like trade routes or mining operations would continue if you were offline. Like if things would progress if you were offline, and they said the sim only runs when you're actively playing. So it will it will pause when you quit the game, and it will continue when you basically log in.
Okay, I mean that doesn't really surprise me, but okay.
Yeah, I mean I suppose sometimes it's cool, dependent on the game, if it would continue with you away almost.
Yeah, but I feel like that's more something for a multiplayer focused game.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas this is, it's a single player RPG. It's I don't know. To me, that seems pretty straightforward, but fair enough. Someone asked.
Yeah. The next question was about can you kind of betray factions? And they said, yeah, you can play that way. All the factions are completed independently. There is a feature where you're undercover somewhere else, but the choice is basically yours as you normally would do. So, yeah. And someone asked about pacifist mode. Can you complete the game without killing anybody? They said they can't guarantee it, but it could be possible with certain skills and unlethal weapons. Yeah, so I can imagine some people going through it, trying as a challenge to try and not kill anybody.
Okay.
So that's quite cool. If you wanted to do that. The next piece of information we got was there's going to be over 20 named characters who can join your crew. 4 of them from the Constellation. And in addition to the companies, you can also hire generic crew members to work at your outpost of your ship. So, as we kind of already knew, but at least we kind of know they're kind of almost separate.
Right.
And you do have to pay your crew members a salary, but it's only a one-time payment that you use the speech challenge to negotiate. So some of those traits that you key into also affect the cost. So, and finally, someone asked about levels. Basically, all the crews start with a set of perks at specific ranks. They don't kind of level up; they kind of stay at that level, basically. Whether they benefit you or not, depending on what they are, might be combat related or whatever. But yeah, that's everything Starfield from that Q&A. Basically, what I chunked out from.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just getting me more excited for the game. I love a Bethesda RPG. I think they're fantastic. I think the storylines are great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no secret here on the podcast or anyone that's been following the stream for a while. I love a bit of sci-fi as well. I think it's the same for you, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sci-fi RPG from Bethesda. Hell yeah. Sign me up.
Talking of the space theme, before we wrap up the podcast for today, Ahsoka is almost here. It's by the time the podcast come out, 3 episodes are out.
Tom, I'm not ready.
They released another clip today, but I
haven't seen it.
I decided not to watch it because I thought I want to see it in the episode where it appears rather than because I wasn't sure about these small little clippets that they keep bringing out. I get it, but I kind of want to see it in context with the episodes now.
I do feel like they're reusing a lot of footage. A lot of the footage we're seeing is being redone and maybe get an extra couple of seconds or so. Yeah,
so we have a little bit more context, but yeah.
But
it's
yeah,
definitely
it's
something that we're getting increasingly excited on, and because it's almost here, I'm kind of reluctant to watch anything new that they're bringing out now, because I just want to wait till the 23rd and just, I
was going to say, for us, it's only 3 days.
Yeah. And
then we can watch the 2-episode premiere.
Yeah. It'll be
I am
very,
so
very
excited.
Cool. Yes. So hopefully we get to talk a little bit about it, maybe spoiler free, on September's podcast episode.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll have to make a decision on how we want to approach that one.
Yeah.
As we're on the subject of film and TV, I have one last thing I want to talk about very quickly. Not going to be too long. I don't know if this will interest you as much, but it's a big thing for me. I'm so excited. I don't know if I've ever talked to you before about the Percy Jackson series.
As in lightning gods, demigods.
Yes.
Oh, I when I was at high school, I read all the books and then all the films. I absolutely loved, and it was a shame when they ended them because I wanted more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah. So the book series is one of my all-time favourite series. It's definitely up there. I don't know where I'd rank it, but it's up there.
Oh yeah.
The films, I did enjoy the films, but as a lot of people have rightly pointed out, they got a lot of things wrong from the books, and they changed a lot of things. And that was one of Rick, the author, for people at home. I'm sure Tom knows.
Yeah.
It was one of Rick's sort of regrets about it. is that he let them change so much, and he didn't kind of put his foot down and say, no, it needs to be like this. And that's kind of why they couldn't carry on the series, because, like, for example, Percy, the actor they chose was just too old. And it wasn't going to work as the series went on. His age is obviously one of those core storylines, I guess, because of the end of it. Anyways, Tom, are you aware they're making a TV series on Disney Plus?
Do you know what? I was literally
and the trailer came out.
Oh, really? Because literally, I think it was yesterday, I was thinking to myself, where's the Percy Jackson series? I hope they haven't cancelled it, because I haven't heard anything for ages. And I was just thinking, where is it? But they've released
just
the trailer,
checking. The trailer came out on Friday.
Oh, yeah? With
a release date.
Oh, what's the release date? Tell me.
So, 2-episode premiere on December 20th.
Oh, December.
Yes. So it'll start on the 20th of December. I don't know how many episodes is in the series. But yeah, we get a 2-episode premiere. So are you familiar with how the TV show is going to work?
I don't think so. I haven't heard much about it, to be honest.
That's fine. And I'll go over it for our listeners and watchers as well. So each series is going to follow one of the books. And Rick is heavily involved. Rick Riordan is the author, again, for those of you not aware. He's heavily involved with the series. He's an executive producer on there, but he's, when he approached Disney about making the series and turning the books into a series, or a number of seasons. There we go. Words. He said that he wanted to be heavily involved in making it and make sure that it was right, because as much as it was his frustration that things were changed, he also recognised that the fans were upset with the changes that were made, and that it wasn't quite true to the books. So that was one of his conditions, and they said, yeah, absolutely. If you want to be heavily involved, we'll let you run it. So we know it's going to be right. He's chosen some brilliant actors for it, and I'm just so excited to finally get a Percy Jackson series that pays so much respect to the books. I'm so excited, man. 20th of December, I'm buzzing. It's another series that is coming. I'm waiting for this for ages. I'll have to send you a link to the trailer later.
Yeah.
It looks good. It's got me excited.
Good.
Cool. I think that's everything for this month. Unless you've got anything to add on, mate?
Absolutely not.
Well, there we go. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us and listening to us ramble for however long we've been going for. A little over an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming and joining us. We really appreciate all of your support, guys. And if you are enjoying it, please do reach out to us. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can drop comments below. I'm sure you know how it works by now. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. If you're listening to it and you're enjoying it, you can, of course, reach out to us. In terms of our Discord links, there are links in the description down below. Please come and join us. Come and chat with us. Let us know what you're enjoying. We love to hear from you guys. It lets us know that we're doing something right, and lets us know that you want to hear more from us, more of our ramblings. If you want to reach out to us on Twitter, we are sticking with Twitter. Mine is twitter.com/FamiliarForce. Come and tweet me. Let me know what you're enjoying. Again, I'll try and respond to you guys. I love to hear from you. I love to get the feedback. Tom, yours is Twitter's got... Take the foot out of my mouth. Twitter.com/MaverickRNG. Again, Tom, I'm sure you want people to reach out to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, we both make content over on Twitch and YouTube. We've talked about it a little bit already. My Twitch is twitch.tv/FamiliarForce. Come and join me there. You can come and chat with me. I try to stream a couple of times a week. I'm not very good at it, I'll be honest. Consistently there on Tuesdays. Other days are when I feel like it.
Hit and miss.
Tom is much more consistent over on twitch.tv/MaverickRNG. You can see a theme here. Tom, do you want to tell us your schedule?
Yeah, I usually stream on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
So you can come and see Tom, and again, I'm sure Tom would love to hear from you about what you're enjoying about the podcast and what you enjoy about his streams as well. It's the same again for YouTube. Rather than Twitch.tv, you want to go youtube.com. For me, it's at FamilarForce. For Tom, it's at Maverick RNG. Again, come and let us know what you're enjoying, guys. I know I'm saying the same thing, but I can't stress it enough. Your feedback is important to us. The next podcast is going to be at the end of September.
27th.
Tom, I don't think we've decided. 27th. There we go.
It's the last Wednesday of the month.
There we go. We have decided on a date. 27th of September. So make sure you stick around. Give us a follow so you get that notification when that next episode goes up. And yeah, I mean, make sure you rate it, review it. Whatever feedback you can give us, we love it. Of course, on any podcasting platform of your choice. I think that's enough from us. We've rambled on for way too long at this point. So we will see you next time
on the Fandom's Edge.